I hate email. It is by far the biggest waste of time that I have to deal with on a daily basis. In this video, we're going to talk about how to minimize email and how to regain your freedom from your inbox. First, and certainly most important, email is not and certainly never will be your highest priority. Unless you are, say, the office manager for the White House or like a surgeon who doesn't have a pager for some reason, email should not be your highest priority. I think a lot of people, myself included in the past, forget this and they are checking it all the time and making sure that they respond ASAP. Don't do that. You have other higher priorities, and if you don't, get a new job or something because you're doing it wrong. I have three major problems with email. First of all, it's a never-ending task. It's just like laundry. You're never going to finish it all. You're going to get more tomorrow, you're going to get more the next day after that. Big spoiler, you're going to get the more the next day after that. What might seem like an extremely important email in any given moment is going to cease to be important, say, an hour or two from now. Or if you think something's important now, you haven't even yet to begin to think about the email you're going to get a month from now. In this way, it is never ending, and this is why you will never win an email. It's why you need to deprioritize it. Which brings me to the second point of why I hate an email. It is a to-do list that anybody in the world with internet access can add to. So if they have your email address, all they need to do is send you something. Now, you might not respond, but you did waste a little bit of your own time by having to read their subject line if it didn't get filtered out. This is terrible because there are billions of people who have internet access and there are billions of people who want to waste your time. So it's very, very important not to let them do that by making email your top priority. The last part of this is that email lists, inboxes are not prioritized. Now, there's a couple exceptions to this that we'll go over, but generally speaking, they're chronologically ordered, which means that it just so happens that whoever emails you first gets to the top or the bottom of your list. This is a horrible way to manage your time and a horrible way to manage your tasks. Email is awful, absolutely terrible. For these reasons and every other reason that you can think of off the top of your head right now, email should not and never should be your highest priority. So we've established that email is absolutely terrible, which it is. So what are you going to do about this? Well, the best recommendation I can is add prioritization to this chaos. 10 years ago or so, Gmail came out, and that revolutionized the way that we do email. But it has not really improved over the 10 years. Now, certainly some features are cool, and some of the Labs products are interesting, but generally speaking, I actually think Gmail has gotten worse. I use something called Fastmail, but that's up to you how you want to do with it. What I do recommend is adding prioritization to this. So I use a tool called SaneBox, which has absolutely changed my world. In the same way that Gmail changed my world 10 years ago, SaneBox has changed my world, my email world, today. Well, actually a year ago when I started using it. What SaneBox does is it creates two inboxes. It creates your important one, which is kind of like the Gmail prioritized one, except for it actually works. And then it creates your act on later, or your sane later box. This is big. It takes everything that needs to get done and puts into one inbox, which I check every day, and then it puts everything that needs to get done eventually into a second email box. Now, it uses algorithms. It's kind of this weird artificial intelligence thing that I don't really understand how it works, but it does work, and that's all I really care about. I don't care about the morals of artificial intelligence. I just want my email to not exist or make it so that it's prioritized for me. And however SaneBox does it, it does it really, really well. So there's the one email inbox that just works like your normal inbox, except for it's only your important emails. And then semi-magically, you have the same later box, which all these things that it knows you can just deal with at a later time. The next biggest tip that I can give you is to make yourself hard to email. Now, there's a few ways to do this. If you go to my website, you're going to be able to find my email address, but it's not easy. If you really are trying to contact me and it's an important event, you're going to be able to find it. But otherwise, if you're just trying to spam me, you're probably not going to find it within your first 5 minutes. You're going to go on another one. If you can do this at all, I highly recommend it. Make yourself emailable, but not easy to email. The second part kind of goes exactly off of this. Have just one email address if you can. Now, sometimes you have to have your personal email and your work email for legal reasons, but if you do not add more to that. and this is because you do not want to have many inboxes. In fact, in an ideal world, you'd have no inboxes. But because you have to have them, minimize them as few as you can, one personal, one work, or if you work for yourself, then just have one total email. And you can do this by forwarding your other email addresses to one email address. And there's lots of little tricks for this and whatnot. The next thing you can do for yourself is relentlessly unsubscribe. Now, a lot of people just are kind of lazy about this. I used to be very lazy about it. I'm like, well, I'll deal with it later. This wasn't that big of a time suck. The problem is these emails do add up. And if you don't unsubscribe the first time, you're going to get 10 more emails from the same person or from the same mailing list. And that's super annoying. So what I do is every single time I get an email that I don't care about, I unsubscribe immediately. And I am ridiculous about this. It's one of my weirder, but I think more time-saving hacks that I have is relentlessly unsubscribe from a mailing list that you don't care about. because they're going to just waste your time over and over and over again. This last tip for concerning email is definitely my favorite, quite frankly because it's a little bit of a dick move to do. Intentionally be slow to respond to email. You want to train the people who are emailing you that you are not going to respond to them immediately, because if you do, they're going to assume that that is always the case and they're going to always expect those results. So whenever I work at a company, which currently I work for myself, but when I've worked for big organizations, when I worked at small organizations before this, I'm always the slow guy on email, and I do this on purpose. It's because I do not want to be tied to my email inbox. I want to have freedom. So how can people get a hold of me, you ask, or you in this situation? Well, it's by training them properly. If somebody calls me, if I'm not able to answer it immediately, I get back to them within an hour. So they know if something is an emergency, they can call me. If something is kind of important but not necessarily emergency, they can text me. And I get back to people through text message within 2 hours. With email though, they know that I'm going to get back to them within 1 or 2 days. And I do this over 24 or 48 hours because that's how the modern world counts days now. If you didn't know that, just get off the internet, go outside or something. But I've started to train the people that email me that I'm going to be slow, and I do this so that I can prioritize other things that are much more important. That's all the tips I have on minimalism and how it applies to email, but I'm sure there's other ones. If you have any other email suggestions, please share them with the groups below. We have comments here or elsewhere. Otherwise, if you want to get more of these, consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks.